Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to discuss with you a very, very intense issue going on right now in Israel. I'm sure a lot of you might have heard about the intense protests going on basically ever since January. They've been going on for months now in Israel. Hundreds to thousands of protesters raging in the streets. Estimates of sometimes up to 500,000 protesters protesting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's proposed legislation to basically give himself more authority over the Israel Supreme Court, a judiciary overhaul. And yeah, this stuff is really, really authoritarian, super dictatorial, and people are not standing for it. There have been massive protests over the past few months in the streets. This plan, by the way, would give him more power to appoint judges to the courts. It would undermine the court's ability to strike down laws it deemed as unconstitutional, and yeah, just give so much more power to him and his executive. And people have not been going for this. Part of the reason, by the way, why people are saying that he's doing this is because right now, at this moment in time, he's actually facing his own corruption charges, within the court system. And the idea is that a big part of the reason why he's doing this is to kind of undermine the charges that have been brought up against him by the courts, to give himself more power over the courts. So yeah, really, really just disgusting stuff going on. And yeah, I'm happy to see people have been protesting in the streets, saying, I'm not going to stand for this. And I'm sure a lot of you probably heard, last week, I believe it was last week, he agreed to a temporary pause over this proposed plan because the public pressure was so massive and people literally went on a general strike in Israel. And it threatened to undermine Israeli society. It threatened to undermine the economy of Israel, and it put his feet to the fire to where he agreed to a temporary pause, at least until the next Israeli congressional session, which is going to be happening, I believe, later on this month, in which he's going to probably repropose this bill, repropose this piece of legislation. And because of that, the protests haven't stopped, even though the reason why he did this pause was to hopefully ease this pressure. Protests still haven't stopped. There's like this past weekend, reports of several 100,000 protesters. Some reports said it was in the tens of thousands. Some reports said, oh no, it was still in the several hundreds of thousands. Either way, lots of intense protests still raging on because it's not good enough to just pause something this terrible. According to the people of Israel, and rightfully so, they want this destroyed. They want this piece of legislation destroyed. On top of this, by the way, there's far-right members of the Israeli government who support Netanyahu and what he's doing, and one of them, Minister Ben Gvir, minister in the Jewish Power Party, far right-wing party in Israel, basically threatened to resign if Netanyahu had even, suspended this bill for any reason. So a compromise Netanyahu came up to with this guy was, okay, please stay and I'll give you your own private militia from the Israeli National Guard. And that's what's going on right now. Minister Ben Gvir agreed to stay. In exchange, he's getting his own private militia from the Israeli National Guard, which is, scary stuff. So even in this, quote unquote compromise, but not really, that Netanyahu is saying he's doing until at least until later on this month, there's still terrible stuff going on, and people of Israel are not standing for it. They're still continuing to protest. Even members of the Israeli military and veterans are out in the streets showing their solidarity with the people. So really amazing stuff. My only thing that I would say about this is I wish that there was as strong of passion within Israeli society when it comes to the oppression of the Palestinians. And what I'm hoping for is that maybe with Israeli citizens seeing how oppression looks like from their own government, maybe with Israeli citizens seeing how authoritarian tendencies look like in their own government, it might make some of the beneficial consequences of this might be that more Israelis might start to empathize more with the Palestinian plight and the generational oppression of the Palestinians that have been going on now for quite some time. And hopefully that will happen. That's my hope. Things like protests always have several unintended consequences. They always have several conscious consequences, but I'm hoping one of the consequences long term is an increased feeling of empathy within the Israeli community for the oppressed Palestinians. So we will see what happens. Power to the people of Israel for continuing their fight and not falling for Netanyahu's tricks. None of this stuff. And hopefully this piece of legislation gets struck down for good. Thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, I'm gonna keep y'all updated.